There are moments in your life when it feels like everything is falling apart. The plans you prayed over collapse. The relationships you trusted shift. The doors you knocked on refuse to open. And in those moments, you ask God, why is this happening to me? But what if it's not happening to you? What if it's happening for you? Sometimes God will break what you built because he sees what you're becoming. We love the idea of elevation, but we resist the process of excavation. Before God builds higher, he digs deeper. Before he crowns you, he crushes what cannot carry the weight of your calling. The breaking is not punishment, it's preparation. It's not rejection, it's redirection. It's not the end, it's the introduction to a new version of you. You can't step into a new dimension with an old mindset. You can't carry new oil in cracked containers. Some of the things you're losing were never meant to go where you're going. And God, in his mercy, will dismantle what you're clinging to so you don't miss what he designed for you. There are seasons when life feels like it's unraveling right in your hands. The job you prayed for slips away. The relationship you invested in falls apart. The opportunity you fasted over closes without explanation. And in those moments, it's easy to interpret the breaking as punishment. It's easy to assume that God is disappointed, distant, or disciplining you. But what if the breaking isn't a consequence? What if it's construction? Preparation rarely feels pleasant. When a builder prepares land for a skyscraper, he doesn't decorate the surface, he tears it up. He digs deep. He removes what looks stable in order to lay a stronger foundation. From the outside, it looks destructive. But from the architect's perspective, it's strategic. In the same way, God will allow parts of your life to be dismantled. Not because he wants to harm you, but because he sees what your current structure cannot sustain. You asked for elevation. You prayed for influence. You believed for expansion. But the version of you that made those prayers cannot always carry the weight of their fulfillment. So God prepares you by breaking what would collapse under pressure later. He removes pride before platform. He confronts insecurity before increase. He exposes unhealthy attachments before acceleration. If he didn't break it now, it would break you later. Sometimes the breaking is internal. It's the shattering of ego, the humbling of self-reliance, the realization that your strength has limits. Other times it's external, doors closing, circles shifting, comfort zones dissolving. Either way, the purpose is the same: preparation. Punishment is about payback. Preparation is about progress. Punishment leaves you condemned. Preparation leaves you refined. When God prepares you, he is not trying to make you smaller. He's making you stronger. He is strengthening your character so your calling doesn't crush you. He is deepening your faith so your success doesn't distort you. He is teaching you obedience in private so you can handle visibility in public. Think about it. Anything valuable goes through a process before it is released. Gold is refined. Athletes are trained. Leaders are tested. Why would your destiny be any different? The breaking you feel is God strengthening your spiritual muscles. It's him building endurance in you. It's him stretching your capacity. You may feel delayed, but you're being developed. You may feel rejected, but you're being redirected. You may feel overlooked, but you're being overseen by a God who understands timing better than you ever could. The pain of preparation is temporary, but the power it produces is lasting. So instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Ask, what is this preparing me for? Shift your perspective from punishment to purpose. Because when you understand that the breaking is preparation, you stop resisting the process. You stop taking every setback personally. You begin to trust that even in dismantling, God is designing. And when preparation is complete, what rises from the rubble will not be fragile. It will be fortified. We love the idea of elevation. We pray for promotion. We declare increase. We speak about going higher, reaching further, stepping into more. But what we often overlook is that elevation always begins with excavation. Before anything rises, something must be removed. When a builder plans to construct something tall, he doesn't start by stacking upward. He starts by digging downward. The taller the building, the deeper the foundation must go. And the digging process is messy. It's loud. It disrupts the surface. What once looked stable gets torn up. What once felt secure gets shaken. But that disruption is necessary. Without depth, height becomes dangerous. In your life, excavation looks like God addressing the hidden things. It's Him digging into motives, fears, pride, insecurities, and wounds you thought were buried. It's uncomfortable because it touches places you don't show people. It challenges patterns you've normalized. It exposes cracks you learned how to hide. But elevation without excavation would be a setup for collapse. If God lifted you without deepening you, the weight of responsibility would crush you. If He gave you influence without integrity, your platform would become your downfall. So He digs first. He deepens your character. He strengthens your faith. He teaches you patience in obscurity before visibility ever finds you. Excavation feels like delay, but it's actually development. It feels like you're going backward because you're not moving upward yet. But depth is progress. Growth underground is still growth. Roots form in hidden places long before fruit appears in visible ones. This is why some seasons feel like you're being stretched in silence. You're learning lessons nobody applauds. You're facing battles nobody sees. You're growing in ways that don't trend on social media. But what's happening beneath the surface is preparing you for a height that will require stability. Elevation is public. Excavation is private. Elevation is celebrated. Excavation is quiet. But without excavation, elevation cannot last. So don't despise the digging season. Don't rush the process of being deepened. Every lesson learned, every character flaw confronted, every moment of surrender is adding strength beneath you. And when the time comes for you to rise, you won't wobble under pressure. Because the depth of your excavation will determine the durability of your elevation. Every new season requires a new way of thinking. You cannot walk into a different dimension of life holding on to the same mindset that sustained you in the last one. Growth demands renewal. Expansion requires adjustment. And sometimes the breaking you experience is simply God challenging the way you think. An old mindset will sabotage a new opportunity. You can pray for increase. But if you still think in limitation, you'll shrink what God is trying to stretch. You can ask for influence, but if you still carry insecurity, you'll question every door that opens. You can step into a new relationship, but if you still think through the lens of past hurt, you'll misinterpret healthy love as danger. The season changes, but if your thinking doesn't, you'll recreate old outcomes in new environments. This is why God confronts your mindset before He expands your territory. He has to break the belief that you're not enough. He has to dismantle the fear that keeps you playing small. He has to challenge the narrative you've been repeating to yourself for years. Because what got you here will not get you there. Old mindsets are comfortable. They feel familiar. Even when they're limiting, they feel safe because you understand them. But new seasons require faith, and faith requires new thinking. It requires you to see yourself the way God sees you. It requires you to stop rehearsing past failures and start expecting future possibilities. Sometimes the breaking feels like confusion. You feel unsettled. What used to make sense no longer does. The strategies that once worked don't seem effective anymore. That's not failure, that's transition. It's a sign that you're outgrowing your former perspective. You cannot carry a scarcity mindset into a season of abundance. You cannot carry a victim mindset into a season of authority. You cannot carry a fearful mindset into a season that demands boldness. God doesn't just change your circumstances, He transforms your consciousness. When your mindset shifts, your decisions shift. When your decisions shift, your direction shifts. And when your direction shifts, your destiny unfolds differently. The new season isn't just about new blessings. It's about becoming a new version of you, one who thinks bigger, believes deeper, and walks with greater clarity. Pressure has a way of making you question everything. When the weight feels heavy and the expectations feel overwhelming, it's easy to assume something is wrong. You start thinking you've missed God, misheard Him, or stepped outside His will. But pressure is not always a sign of misalignment. Sometimes it's confirmation that something powerful is being formed inside of you. Pressure reveals capacity. Think about it. Coal only becomes a diamond under intense pressure. Muscles only grow when they're stretched and strained beyond comfort. Even a seed must push through the resistance of soil before it ever sees sunlight. Resistance is not the enemy of growth. It's the requirement for it. The reason the pressure feels intense is because what's inside of you is valuable. God will allow pressure to expose your strength, but also to reveal your weaknesses. Not to shame you, but to strengthen you. Under pressure, you discover where your faith is shallow and where it is solid. You see where you still rely on your own control and where you've truly surrendered. Pressure strips away illusion. It forces authenticity. And authenticity is where real power begins. Without pressure, you might settle for potential instead of stepping into purpose. Without pressure, you might stay comfortable instead of becoming courageous. Pressure pushes you beyond what you thought were your limits. It forces you to grow in areas you would have ignored if life stayed easy. Comfort never created greatness. Pressure also teaches endurance. It builds spiritual stamina. It conditions your heart to handle more. The very thing that feels like it's squeezing you is actually expanding you. It's increasing your emotional maturity. It's deepening your prayer life. It's sharpening your discernment. When you survive pressure, you don't come out weaker. You come out wiser. You learn that you can handle more than you thought. You realize that God sustained you through moments you once feared would break you. And with every pressured season you overcome, your confidence shifts. Not confidence in yourself alone, but confidence in the one who carried you through. So don't run from the pressure. Don't interpret it as proof that you're failing. It may be the very environment God is using to produce power within you, power you didn't even know you possessed. One of the greatest fears we have during seasons of breaking is the fear of abandonment. When life starts shifting, when things feel uncertain, when prayers seem unanswered, it's easy to assume that God stepped back, that somehow He allowed the breaking and then disappeared from the scene. But the truth is, He never initiates a process He doesn't intend to complete. If He allowed the breaking, He committed to the rebuilding. God is not distant in your development. He is present in every detail of it. When the old pieces fall apart, He is not watching from far away. He is carefully shaping what comes next. He sees what you cannot see. He understands what you do not yet understand. And while you're focused on what you lost, He's focused on what you're becoming. The silence you feel is not absence. It's construction. Just because He isn't explaining every step doesn't mean He isn't guiding every step. Growth often happens in quiet places. Transformation usually unfolds behind the scenes. There are moments when it feels like you're navigating alone, but even in that loneliness, His hand is steady. He stays when friends drift away. He stays when doors close. He stays when your confidence wavers. God doesn't discard broken pieces. He restores them. Every disappointment, every betrayal, every mistake, He gathers it all. Nothing is wasted. What you see as fragments, He sees as material. What you see as failure, He sees as formation. And here's the powerful part, He doesn't rush the process. We want instant clarity, instant relief, instant restoration. But God works with intention. He shapes patiently. He refines carefully. Because He's not just fixing a moment, He's forming a masterpiece. When you understand that He stays in the process, you stop panicking in the middle of it. You stop assuming that difficulty means desertion. You begin to trust that even when it feels unfinished, it is still under divine supervision. You are not being rebuilt randomly. You are being rebuilt intentionally. And the same God who allowed the breaking is the one who ensures the outcome will be stronger, wiser, and more aligned than anything you could have created on your own. When the breaking season ends, you don't come out as a weaker version of yourself. You come out refined. There is a clarity that only comes through pressure. There is a strength that only develops through surrender. And the remade you carry is both. Before the breaking, you may have walked with talent, but not depth. You may have had ambition, but not alignment. You may have had confidence, but it was fragile, dependent on applause, validation, or outcomes going your way. But after God remakes you, your strength is different. It's quieter. It's steadier. It's rooted. The remade you doesn't panic as easily. You've seen storms before. You've survived uncertainty. You've felt the ground shift beneath you and learned that you don't collapse when things shake. That kind of resilience cannot be taught in comfort. It's forged in fire. Clarity also comes from losing what distracted you. When certain relationships fall away, you see who truly belongs in your life. When certain opportunities close, you recognize what was misaligned. When certain habits are stripped from you, You realize how much they were limiting your growth. Breaking removes the noise. It sharpens your focus. The remade you knows what matters and what doesn't. You stop chasing approval because you've learned that identity is not earned, it's established. You stop forcing doors because you trust timing. You stop shrinking yourself to fit environments that no longer reflect who you're becoming. There is authority in the remade version of you, not arrogance, but assurance. You speak with conviction because you've wrestled with doubt and overcome it. You walk with purpose because you've experienced confusion and found direction. You love with maturity because you've healed from pain. The breaking season teaches you who God is. The remaking season teaches you who you are. And once you've been remade, you don't fear future breaking because you understand that every time something falls apart under God's hand, it's only making space for something stronger to rise. The remade you is not just surviving life. You are leading it with wisdom, confidence, and unwavering faith. So when you look back at every broken piece, every closed door, every uncomfortable transition, you begin to see it differently. What felt like destruction was actually design. What looked like loss was strategic release. What seemed like chaos was careful construction. God was never trying to end you. He was evolving you. The breaking stripped away what couldn't sustain your destiny. It confronted the mindsets that limited you. It deepened your foundation. It applied pressure that produced strength. And through it all, He never stepped away from the process. He stayed, He shaped, He refined, He rebuilt. Now you understand that elevation required excavation. That preparation sometimes feels like pain. That pressure was proof of purpose. That old thinking had to fall so new vision could rise. That the remade version of you carries clarity, authority, and unshakable faith. You are not who you were before this season. You think differently. You pray differently. You respond differently. You stand differently. The insecurity that once controlled you no longer defines you. The fear that once silenced you no longer leads you. The need for approval that once drove you no longer owns you. The breaking did not diminish you, it revealed you. And now, when another challenging season approaches, you won't interpret it as punishment. You'll recognize it as preparation. You won't panic under pressure. You'll remember what it produces. You won't assume God has left. You'll trust that He is working beneath the surface again because you've learned the truth. God doesn't break you to destroy you. He breaks you to deepen you. He breaks you to develop you. He breaks you to remake you. Every new season requires a new way of thinking. You cannot walk into a different dimension of life holding on to the same mindset that sustained you in the last one. Growth demands renewal. Expansion requires adjustment. And sometimes the breaking you experience is simply God challenging the way you think. An old mindset will sabotage a new opportunity. You can pray for increase, but if you still think in limitation, you'll shrink what God is trying to stretch. You can ask for influence, but if you still carry insecurity, you'll question every door that opens. You can step into a new relationship, but if you still think through the lens of past hurt, you'll misinterpret healthy love as danger. The season changes, but if your thinking doesn't, you'll recreate old outcomes in new environments. This is why God confronts your mindset before He expands your territory. He has to break the belief that you're not enough. He has to dismantle the fear that keeps you playing small. He has to challenge the narrative you've been repeating to yourself for years. Because what got you here will not get you there. Old mindsets are comfortable. They feel familiar. Even when they're limiting, they feel safe because you understand them. But new seasons require faith, and faith requires new thinking. It requires you to see yourself the way God sees you. It requires you to stop rehearsing past failures and start expecting future possibilities. Sometimes the breaking feels like confusion. You feel unsettled. What used to make sense no longer does. The strategies that once worked don't seem effective anymore. That's not failure, that's transition. It's a sign that you're outgrowing your former perspective. You cannot carry a scarcity mindset into a season of abundance. You cannot carry a victim mindset into a season of authority. You cannot carry a fearful mindset into a season that demands boldness. God doesn't just change your circumstances, He transforms your consciousness. When your mindset shifts, your decisions shift. When your decisions shift, your direction shifts. And when your direction shifts, your destiny unfolds differently. The new season isn't just about new blessings. It's about becoming a new version of you, one who thinks bigger, believes deeper, and walks with greater clarity.